What's happening in Syria has been happening for a long time now, more than 13 months, and thousands of people have been killed, and there's even more thousands of people who are running from what's happening there, and it's been able to continue without a lot of intervention from the world, and that's where I thought we could maybe shine a light on what's going on. We didn't actually go to Syria. It's very hard to report from there because the government has a tight noose on reporters. They don't let them in, and those who have snuck in have had a real difficult time, and a lot have lost their lives. So we did what we thought would be the next best thing by going to one of the places where thousands of refugees have been fleeing, and that's Jordan. It was incredibly easy to get the story of what's happening in Syria the minute we crossed into the refugee camp. These people had come over, in some cases just hours before. Most had arrived a day or two before we had gotten there. And the horrors were fresh in their minds. It's the only thing they wanted to talk about, and everyone wanted to tell us what was going on because their perception is that this has been going on so long because no one knows what's happening there. So when an outside journalist came with a camera, they came running right up to us and would line up and surround us, throwing cell phones at us with horrible images that they had filmed, telling us awful stories about what had happened to them and their family members, and that would go on for hours at a time. I think in the beginning of the experience, hearing the stories, I had a lot of energy because I had just arrived and this is what I came to hear. And the fact that these people were so willing to tell their stories, while the stories were awful, it was my job to listen to them and record them, and so it was rewarding to be able to sit there and listen to it. But I have to admit, by the third day, you just sort of get full. You're saturated with these horrible stories, and which isn't to say I didn't want to listen to them anymore, but you start to feel the futility of this, that these horrible things have been going on. And it's happened over and over again around the world throughout history that these big massacres happen, and afterwards everyone always says, it's never going to happen again, we're not going to let this happen again. And here we are listening to how it's happening again right now, and no one's stopping it. There was one little girl who we interviewed and who's in our piece. Her name is Noor. She's 10 years old, and we found her in a little makeshift school that had been set up at the refugee camp. And she had drawn a picture of what she had seen from her window. And the picture was Syrian troops shelling her house and killing her best friend. And the picture said a lot. She did not have a lot of words to describe what happened, but this picture just came out of her. There was no organized art therapy or anything like that. The kids in the school were given paper and crayons and told to draw what you want. And hers was one of a dozen or so pictures that we saw that were like that. And it was pretty heartbreaking to see a 10-year-old girl who you knew had to see these things. And I have 2 children, and it was hard for me to think about them having experienced that. What's happening is so ugly. There's so many people getting killed. There's children getting massacred. There's homes that are getting shelled. And these are just ordinary Syrians. These have nothing to do with the Free Syrian Army or anyone else who's fighting. These are peaceful demonstrators or just ordinary people who live in a neighborhood where there were demonstrators. And it's been going on for so long, and they can't imagine that the rest of the world wouldn't do something if they had seen what was going on. So they kept telling us, look at this, listen to this, tell the world what's going on, and tell them that we need your help. And no, I did not ever tell them that the world knows what's going on, because I don't know how to answer that. And it's our job, and frankly, if we bought into that, then our job is kind of useless. So I believe that by showing these images and by telling them to the rest of the world that eventually someone will do something. That's why we do what we do.